We humans are extraordinarily and painfully vulnerable creatures, especially in our early years. This is a fundamental truth of our existence. During this formative time, when our minds and hearts are like soft clay, we are at a huge danger of being psychologically damaged by those around us. This damage, in one way or another, is always caused by a shortfall of tenderness and care. As we might put it, it's caused by a shortfall of love. Now, a shortfall of love doesn't always mean overt abuse or neglect. The examples are incredibly varied and often subtle. Perhaps at an early point, someone significant went missing or someone died, leaving a void that could not be filled. Perhaps someone was cruel, with sharp words or a cold demeanor. Or maybe, and this is so common, someone simply misunderstood us. They couldn't see who we truly were. They dismissed our feelings, or they imposed their own anxieties and expectations upon us. It could be a parent who was always too busy, too stressed, or too wrapped up in their own struggles to provide consistent emotional warmth. Whatever the specific cause, as a result of this deficit, universally, some kind of wound was sustained. Yet, alongside this profound vulnerability, we are also psychologically very ingenious creatures. Our minds have a powerful, built-in survival instinct. In the face of any wound, we develop an array of very clever defense mechanisms. Think of them as a kind of psychological immune system. The purpose of these defenses is to protect us against further damage, to help us get through to the next stage of existence, and in extremis, to keep us going and literally save our lives. For example, to protect us against the wound of a parent who goes missing, we might develop the defense mechanism of an inability to feel sad whenever anyone is absent, effectively numbing ourselves to the pain of departure. To protect us against an alcoholic or unpredictable caregiver, we might develop the defense of huge independence and self-containment, learning the hard lesson that the only person we can ever truly rely on is ourselves. Someone who is constantly criticized might develop a shell of perfectionism, believing that if they are flawless, they can finally be safe from judgment. The problem with our defense mechanisms, however, is that they always, without exception, exact a price. While they protected us very well at a certain age, serving as a brilliant raft in a stormy sea, the more time passes, the more they become unsuited to the new conditions that we face in the here and now. The raft that saved us in the ocean is now a heavy, cumbersome burden to drag through the city. What were once ingenious adaptations to a hostile environment become, over the years, the root causes of behaviors that limit our chances, sabotage our happiness, and ruin things for us. For instance, the inability to feel sad when someone is absent, which once protected us from grief, now leads to relationships that are shallow and brittle, because genuine intimacy requires the vulnerability to miss someone. The huge independence that kept us safe from an unreliable caregiver now results in a profound, aching loneliness, making it impossible for us to truly depend on anyone or accept help, even when it's freely and lovingly offered. The perfectionism that shielded us from criticism now turns into crippling anxiety and procrastination, preventing us from ever starting new projects for fear of them not being perfect. It's in the nature of how our minds work that we generally can't see the connection between how our defense mechanisms operate today and the wounds we sustained in the past. These defenses have become so integrated into our personality that we think, this is just who I am. They give us what we call symptoms, and we have a tendency to just accept these symptoms, even if they're very painful. Often, we don't even notice them consciously. We just accept that we're not so good at love, or we accept that we're just a naturally anxious person. We don't notice that we're manically cheerful, using relentless positivity to avoid any hint of sadness. We don't notice how much we're underperforming at work, held back by a subconscious fear of success. So, how do we break this cycle? In order to heal ourselves from our symptoms and the emotional wounds that lie deep beneath them, we have to learn to understand ourselves better. Our future happiness relies on becoming more self-aware. This is not an act of self-indulgence. is essential maintenance for the soul. The more we can work at understanding ourselves, the healthier, freer, and more creative we can be. How, then, can we unpick this intricate legacy of emotional wounds? Self-understanding is a journey, and we can map it out as a 7-stage process. Firstly, we need to learn to identify our symptoms. This requires a new kind of ambition. Not an ambition for more money or status, but an ambition for a richer emotional life. We need to scan the present with gentle curiosity and wonder how things could be improved. We should ask ourselves probing questions. What would I like to get rid of in myself? What fruitless habits, compulsions, or areas of stuckness would I like to overcome? What's more painful in my life than it needs to be? What patterns of difficulty in relationships, at work, in my relationship with myself can I notice once I look carefully? Secondly, we need to identify our defense mechanisms. These can be very hard to spot because they feel like a part of us. But it helps to consider a list of what some very common defense mechanisms are to see if they ring any bells. We might never have thought of these things as defenses, but we may feel a moment of recognition. Things like falling in love with emotionally unavailable people, ensuring our relationships always fail right when they get serious, underperforming at work, being fiercely independent, addiction to alcohol, porn, exercise, or work, feeling emotionally numb, hypervigilance, and a constant feeling of being on edge, continuous anxiety, or a persistent low-grade depression. Thirdly, we must reframe these defenses. We're used to thinking of them in negative terms. They're typically framed as problematic illnesses that have no rationale. They do cause us difficulties, but thinking of them negatively only makes us want to fight them, which often strengthens their grip. This approach doesn't allow us to understand that they actually have a profound logic. And it's only on the basis of understanding their logic that we can begin to overcome them. We must, therefore, learn to look at our defense mechanisms as highly ingenious, very clever strategies that once would have done a very good job at keeping us safe. We need to look for the clever upside of whatever defense we recognize in ourselves. We should ask, what was this defense mechanism brilliant at doing for me? How did it help me survive? For falling in love with unavailable people, the clever upside is that we never have to risk true vulnerability or be let down by someone we fully depend on. For ensuring our relationships always fail, the clever upside is we don't need to experience the devastating pain of loss. For underperforming at work, the clever upside is we don't have to risk generating envy or facing the pressures of success. For being very independent, the clever upside is that no one can ever disappoint us again. Fourthly, now we need to reconstruct why a defense mechanism was ever necessary in our life. What was it about our past that would have made it necessary to have our specific defensive strategy in place? What wounds did we sustain? We might not be used to thinking this way. The past may feel like a long way back now, or the memories may be hazy. But we need to proceed like archaeologists who try to reconstruct from the fragments in the here and now some of the circumstances of a bygone era. Let's add another column to our mental chart. If the defense is falling for unavailable people and its upside is avoiding being let down, what wound might have made this necessary? Maybe mom was emotionally never there. If the defense is sabotaging relationships to avoid loss, what was the wound? Perhaps dad was erratic and unpredictable, and his presence felt like a constant risk of loss. If the defense is underperforming to avoid envy, what was the wound? Maybe there was an older sibling who was bullying and fiercely jealous whenever we succeeded. Fifthly, we should do something very unfamiliar. We should congratulate ourselves. We need to praise our own minds for having been rather clever. Far from being some silly, neurotic feature of our lives, our defense mechanisms have been an ingenious way of keeping us away from devastation. They were a testament to our will to survive. Let's take a genuine moment to feel proud of our smart minds for devising a means of carrying us past danger and onto the next stage of life. Let's feel compassion and admiration for our defensive strategy. Sixth, having given ourselves all due congratulations, we then need to do something else. realize that our defense mechanisms are, in fact, past their sell-by date. They were once undoubtedly pretty clever, and we can feel grateful to them. But now, in the present, they don't serve any purpose anymore. In fact, now they make life worse than it needs to be. In the circumstances of our adult present, they aren't required. We can afford to say goodbye to them. Indeed, our growth depends on it. Let's add that final, crucial column to our chart. What is the price we are paying now? For falling in love with unavailable people, the price we pay now is that we can't enjoy real, lasting intimacy. For ensuring our relationships fail, the price is that we haven't been able to have the family or partnership that we deeply want. The other prices are immense. We're underselling ourselves, we feel isolated, our health is suffering badly. Life doesn't feel very real, we're worried sick, and our spirits are low. And finally, seventh, now that we have the following in clear view, the defense mechanism, its clever logic, its original wound, and its punishing current price, we are in an excellent position to carry out the next step, deciding to say goodbye. Very gently, we can let our minds know that the mechanism that once kept us safe can now be retired with honors. We can be safe in other, healthier ways. Indeed, our future flourishing depends on us surrendering our hold on our former defense. Once it made sense to be numb, now it no longer does. Once it made sense to be fiercely independent, now it no longer does. Once we had to be sad and fearful, now, finally, we can be hopeful and free. This journey of healing is not about assigning blame or erasing the past. It is about compassionate recognition of our own incredible resilience. The result is not a life magically free from all problems, but one lived with profound authenticity and freedom. It is the freedom to build relationships that are deep and nourishing, to pursue our potential without the invisible weight of old fears holding us back. It is the freedom to trade the lonely, cold fortress of self-containment for the warm, vulnerable, and deeply human experience of genuine connection. By understanding the origins of our armor, we finally give ourselves permission to set it down, piece by piece, and step into the life that has been waiting for us all along, a life where we are not just surviving, but truly thriving. Embarking on this path of self-discovery is one of the greatest and most courageous gifts you can give yourself. It's a journey back to the person you were always meant to be. If this guidance has resonated with you, and you are ready to continue exploring the path to self-awareness and healing, we invite you to join our community. Please subscribe to our channel for more content designed to support and inspire you on your journey. Thank you for joining us today.